Welcome to This Indulgent Life with me, Mary Cook, and this is episode number 27. Today on This Indulgent Life, we are speaking with Ellyse Colson, and she is going to be talking about how to create a homeschooling schedule that works for your family. We've seen all these schedules floating around, especially during COVID-19, and she's coming to help us figure out what actually will work for us. So stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of This Indulgent Life, where I give you tools, strategies, and encouragement to help you parent with confidence. I'm Mary, and after having my own personal revelation on what it meant to break the cycles of anger and guilt, to connect deeply and live joyfully in both my parenting and personal life, I began helping other mamas do the same. If you want to be inspired, if you want to be a more mindful parent, if you want to know what it takes to take that next step in creating your extraordinary life, then you are in the right place. Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you again. I want to just go over a little housekeeping before we get started, as usual. And I want to remind you that if you are enjoying these podcasts, or this video, I would love it if you could subscribe and leave an honest rating and review, especially in iTunes, so that other people can find these podcasts as well. Also, don't forget there is a free Facebook group. In fact, there are now 2 free Facebook groups. One is my normal parenting group, which is facebook.com/groups/thisindulgentlife. And that's where I help mamas of littles parent with confidence, joyfully, peacefully, and mindfully. And then the second one was a pop-up group, which I am continuing to support during this quarantine self-isolation time. And that is facebook.com/groups/pandemic parenting. It was our calm and centered summit, which these next several podcast videos are going to be all about. Okay, so I'm going to try to do 2 a week, but sometimes I may only do 1 a week. And basically, these are the speakers that came together in a time of crisis to help you out in this transition. And so I'm so thankful for these people, and I cannot wait to share them with you. But if you want to go ahead and jump in, all of the videos are available in that second group, as well as many links and resources and PDFs. All these things are available to you in that group. So go ahead and go join that. For now, I'd love to introduce you to Ellyse Colson. Welcome back. I'm so excited to introduce this next person to you. Ellyse and I have known each other, internet known, for almost a year now, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed seeing how she's taken this whole idea of being a working mom and being a stay-at-home working mom and really helping the rest of the community find their path with homeschooling. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is really just figuring out what schedule is right for you. So Ellyse has been working in the educational field for the last 10 years. Get this, guys. She has built a school-wide curriculum from the ground up and is about to release her own course on how to build your own curriculum as a homeschooling parent this year. She's highly organized and loves creating schedules for both herself and her clients, and learning is best done through doing. Given the time and space, kids will learn more and be more willing to learn. So please welcome Ellyse. Thank you so much for doing this on such short notice as well. For those of you who don't know, I came up with this idea on Saturday, maybe Friday night, something like that, and then started contacting people like Saturday, and then we've got it up all and going in 4 days. So
Yeah.
people, all the speakers that you will be hearing this week have really just jumped on board to helping you. That's their sole goal, is just really to help you guys make this transition. So welcome, Ellyse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I mean, it is no small feat to put on a virtual summit, let alone to do it, like you said, in the matter of a couple of days. Like, you have put this together so quickly, and I know that everybody in this group is so thankful for having this space. But as Mary said, I am honestly doing this because I know how difficult it is to be a teacher in a classroom. And that is with having multiple years of teaching background and experience and being in classrooms myself. And there are a handful of people in this world who choose to homeschool their kids, and that's amazing, and such a great educational space for their kids. It's another thing when you had no intention of homeschooling your kids and you're being thrown into it, like, so super quick. Um, I don't know about for you guys, but the speed at which the school districts and everybody were making decisions about how things were going to go was like changing by the hour, not even by the day. And so I want to give you guys, you parents, major props for taking this and just kind of running with it, because we're all just kind of thrown into the situation, and for better or worse, here we are. So hopefully I can give you guys some tools that will be helpful when creating your own schedule. As Mary said in the introduction, I am a highly organized person and I love creating schedules. Um, but I know that some people don't. And I know that it becomes a completely different animal when we start talking about the things that we're doing with our kids, and like, you now feel this responsibility to be teaching them as well as trying to get all of your other stuff done. So I want to give you guys major props and let you know that, like, you got this, you can do it. It just might be kind of hard, and it might be something that you are resistant to because you had no intention of doing it, and I get it. So if you are a type A person, like I am, I'm so type A. You love creating schedules, and like having a set schedule is really important to you. And I schedule my life down to a T if I can. But your kids might not necessarily be the same way. And so there was, I can't remember if it was the end of last week, beginning of this week, um, there was like a snapshot, a graphic floating around of like a schedule that you could use. And it was beautiful. It was very nicely put together. Um, but it was nailed down to about every hour. And for some of you, that may work just fine. But I would venture to guess that, especially with some of your kids, because they haven't been put in a situation where you are their teacher, they have some serious resistance to the schedule that you are implementing. And so part of that may be from the fact that, like, you say, we're going to do school at home, and they're like, I hate school. Or I'm at home and I want to do all the home things. And so if that is the situation in the case that you've come to, your kids might just need to have a conversation with you. And it doesn't have to be a super in-depth conversation about like what the coronavirus is and what it's doing to everything, if that's going to, like, it's either not age appropriate or it's going to cause them a lot of stress. But letting them know that, like, hey, we're in this situation and I'm going to need you to get some work done at home, just like mommy has to get some work done at home. And so coming to that understanding is going to be really, really important for everybody involved. I also honestly believe that kids learn best through doing. So, like, if the work that was sent home with your kids or is sent through email is a lot of like sitting in front of the computer and doing computer things or like worksheets, your kids may be very resistant to that. because one, they may not necessarily learn that way at school, and they're not necessarily doing things. They're working on a worksheet. So if you can find a way to integrate learning into the cooking that you're doing to make dinner, or the chores that you need them to do throughout the day, or having them go outside, like if you have kids who are at the very beginning stages of like learning to count, have them find you 10 rocks. That is a great learning activity, but also allows them to be like physically moving their bodies.
Which
Uh,
is so important.
so
Kids
important.
learn in movement.
Yes. And so like, or like if they're learning their multiplication facts, having them count by fives while they're doing jumping jacks, like that is so good. It gets them moving their bodies, and they're not just like filling out the numbers on a worksheet. Like that does not help it stick in their brains. It just doesn't. Physically doing the movement with it is going to have a lot bigger effect. And they don't have to be big things. So the other thing that I want you to keep in mind is that your kids are always learning. Like learning is always happening. In fact, my mother-in-law, we went to the zoo last summer, and when you go to the zoo with a bunch of teachers, which my husband and I are, you're always learning, and there's like questions happening, and so I want you to feel comfortable in knowing that like even if you're not sitting at a table physically working on school work, they are still learning things. Um, and so rest assured that even during preferred activities, they can still be learning. Um, so we'll get into a few more activities that you can do with them that aren't necessarily technology based, that are really great activities for them to do throughout the day, and would really involve you in the sense that they are doing things that you would not necessarily consider learning, but they're learning other like social emotional skills, which are very important as well. Um, they there are lots and lots of free resources right now that are floating around. You have all kinds of websites and applications and programs that are saying, you know, we're offering our services for free on this website, yada, yada, yada. You guys, it's a lot. And so my suggestion to you is to start with what your students were provided by school. And then if you want to move to adding in other apps and programs and whatever, you can do that, but start with one at a time. Don't feel like you have to be doing these 6 different programs because you saw that they were for free. Like one at a time, and see if it works. Like if it's not working for your kid and they're not engaged, like don't do that one. So those are just a few top of mind things that I wanted to put out there, and for you guys to keep in mind as you're working through however long this chooses to go. Because that's the other thing. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I know that's causing anxiety as well. Um, so so sit with that. Okay. All right. Into giving you some tips for creating this routine and schedule for your kids and for your life. I am not going to post an example routine or schedule. I do not feel like it will be helpful. Because your life is so much different than my life. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Like my life looks way different than your life of all of you parents who have school age kids that you're trying to work through stuff with them. And the way that your kids learn and work is also very different from somebody else. So I'm going to give you some tips, and hopefully those tips help you to create the routine and schedule that will work for your family. First and foremost, give yourself some grace and allow things to move and change. You need to be reevaluating the schedule every single day, figuring out what worked well and what didn't go so well. And it may have been an attitude issue. If that's the case, maybe try again the next day. But there also might just be some little tweaks that you can make. And as you're evaluating and looking at the way things have gone and maybe the reason why things have not gone well, that will help you move forward into the next day. I suggest that the night before each school day, that you are sitting down and taking about 30 minutes to figure out a couple key important things. You're figuring out what work you need to get done the next day. You're figuring out what your children need to be doing for their learning. You figure out what household things you would like to get done and who will be leading each piece of the day. And so if you have more than one adult home or one that can like come home and make dinner. So if your spouse is still or partner is still out working all day long and they come home usually and you're usually the one that makes dinner, maybe ask them to see if they can make dinner or do bedtimes or take on some of the other tasks that you've been doing, to kind of ease some of that stress because everybody's getting used to things. So sitting down, figuring out what things need to be happening the next day. You can kind of figure out how that fits into your schedule. In our household, learning happens best first thing in the morning. So we do some breakfast, and then the first part of the morning is when we do some learning. And then right after the learning, going out and taking a walk and going outside refreshes everybody's brain. Good to go. Come back. Then it's about lunchtime. And you don't necessarily have to be super time strict with yourself. Having a list of the things that need to happen is great. And if that works for you and for your kids, then do that. I would suggest starting each day with a review. So like having everybody sit down and figure out what's happening that day. So your kids may just need to know when their free time is coming. That may really help with them sitting down to do the work that you need them to do, is knowing that, this is only going to last until 9:30. And if we can get through everything and it's done, then, we have our walk time after that and we have our play time after that. And so that may be the thing that motivates them to get through the working time.
I would also add in there, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Remember that not all kids work at the same pace. And some people sometimes they need to procrastinate to get to the point where they can do the work. So like I'm one of those people where I kind of actually need extra time to kind of sit around and fiddle and doodle or whatever, and then I can get to what I need to do. So don't feel like, all right, you have 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, you should be able to get through these worksheets. Because A, your child may need more time, even if they aren't a procrastinator like me. But B, you don't actually know how long they really need. So give a little bit of grace in there. They can always come back to it later. But just remember, don't pigeonhole yourself into a power struggle because you're so set on a certain amount of time.
For sure. Well, and keep in mind too, even if like the teacher's expectation is that they do this whole worksheet in a given day, if your kids have been sitting there and agonizing through this worksheet and they're only a couple problems in after like a good 20-minute time frame, give them a break, please. They're not going to be able to keep working through that and really retaining the information, which is ultimately what we want. We want them to be continuing to learn, but that's not going to happen if they're feeling stressed out and frustrated.
So true.
So use your best judgment to say, you know what, we're going to take a break. We're not even going to finish this worksheet today. Maybe we'll come back to it tomorrow. Because if we're being completely honest, that's what happens in a classroom. You have kids who struggle with something. They're not necessarily going to finish this worksheet because they are still learning the task at hand. Or it's not important for them to do 20 problems. They really only need to do 5 problems. So just use that judgment and don't feel like you can't make the appropriate decisions on how long your kids are working for because you've been given work by the school or by their teacher. If you are having to do work at home as well, I highly suggest that your work time is different than their schooling time. I would do my work time during their preferred activity time because I know that's when they are going to be the most on, like, they're going to keep themselves company. They're not going to be coming to me asking me a bunch of questions. So
Can you go into what you mean by preferred activity time?
I can't. So you have your kids and they do schoolwork, and most likely they do not prefer to do schoolwork over like playing a video game or playing with their Legos. Or a preferred activity is an activity if you gave them 2 choices between something they enjoy doing and something that they don't enjoy doing. The preferred activity is the activity they're going to choose over the other one. So please make sure that you have scheduled time for them to just play, because that happens at school. They get lots of time to take a break and to play and to interact with each other in a completely different manner than just an academic setting. So that leads me into the time pieces for like when you're scheduling in the learning piece of your day. Realistically, 1 to 2 hours, depending on how old your kids are, of legit sitting down learning time. And if you have really young kids, like 3 to 8, I would suggest that you guys sit down and do learning for about an hour. That is a lot of dedicated time. It may not feel that way because it's 1 hour of the whole day. But that is a lot of dedicated time for those little brains and those little bodies.
Yeah.
And for your older kids, 9 to 13, I'd say 2 hours is really good. It's about 30 minutes per subject. And then for your high school kids and your college age kids, they really do need to get their work done. Like they have credits associated with the work that they're doing. And if that's the conversation you need to have with them, like they're not going to pass this class unless they do this work, then have the conversation with them. But for all of your younger kids, like realistically, guys, it's not 7 hours of your day. Because I can promise you, when they're at school, they are not learning for 7 hours. They're not sitting in academic classes for 7 hours of the day. And so don't stress yourself out trying to make that fit into your day as well as getting all of your work done. It'll
Yeah.
drive you bonkers.
Not only that, but even if they were learning for 7 hours, you have to remember that they are learning with 20 to 30 other kids.
Yeah.
And so the teachers need that time to be able to go to the different kids. When you just have the 1 to 3 to 4 kids, whatever it is, that's a whole lot less. I mean, if teachers only had small groups, they could fly through the 7 hours that they have. And that's why you don't need so much time, because you only have the few that you're working with.
Right. You're going to be exhausted, quite honestly. If you try and do 7-hour days of your kids sitting and learning, you are going to be exhausted. They are going to be exhausted. And it's just not going to be fun for anybody. And ultimately, like, let's have a little bit of fun. If we're stuck in this situation, like, let's make learning as fun as we possibly can to get through all of this. And then just make sure that you have movement planned into your day as well. I have a couple of like teacher tips for you. So keep in mind that each of your kids may need a different kind of schedule. So for your super type A kids, they may need that like timed out schedule of when you expect them to be doing things. And honestly, guys, if you have kids who are like crazy, they're just kind of bouncing off the wall kind of kids, they may actually need more structure, not less structure. So keep that in mind. But if you have type B kids who are just kind of laid back and will get things done when they get things done, then maybe all they need is a list of things that you need them to do throughout the day. And let them know that like you don't get to play video games or watch Netflix or whatever you want to do until this list of things is done. But like it's up to you when you finish those things. Okay? I'll see you at dinner. Um, so the other big thing. So a lot of this has run into spring breaks. So like right now is my husband's spring break, and the next 2 weeks was my spring break. Let your kids have spring break, please. Like if they were not going to be sitting in class, then you don't necessarily have to be doing the learning stuff right now. Is it like, do some of the kids need it a little bit? Sure. And give them what they need, but like don't feel like you have to push them through all of this learning stuff because you guys are all stuck in the house together. Give them their spring break. It will be useful for you in the long run, I promise. And then don't expect them to be in the learning mode the entire time that you are sitting and doing learning with them. So a lot of times what will happen in like schools is, especially in the younger grades, I'd say like K4, teachers will give them, we call them brain breaks, about every 15 to 20 minutes in between different activities to get up and stretch and like move your body a little bit to get your energy back up. And so you can do things, there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos or Go Noodle videos that you can play where kids just like dance it out a little bit and move their bodies, and then you can get started on the next activity. Or you can make it as simple as you possibly want to and just have them like do a lap around the house or do a couple of push-ups, like whatever is easiest for you. But giving them little mini breaks in between each of the activities that you're doing will help you prolong the amount of time that they're doing stuff with you.
And I think that's important for the adults as well. It's something that I've discovered as I become a stay-at-home mom or work-at-home mom, is that I also need to remember to take some breaks and move. I think that's why I'm having neck issues right now, because yesterday I tried to just like gung-ho through the day, and then I realized, nope, I've now got eye strain and I've got neck issues and, fatigue, and you need the breaks just as much as your kids. And I think you'll also find that when you don't have all of your coworkers around you as well, sometimes you can get your work done faster. So take the breaks. We all need them.
Please do. And the last thing in terms of like teacher tips for you, create a calm working space for your kids. Have a designated space if that's what the structure that they need. I know that there are some older kids where like giving them the choice of like where they want to work is a great choice for them. In the activities that they're doing. Like, so instead of saying, hey, do you want to learn right now or not? It's where do you want to learn? But some of our kids need a little bit more structure than that, especially if they're younger. But when you create a calm working space, it's quiet. You can have like instrumental music playing, which I always found as a teacher to be really helpful. And like, even when, we don't turn the TV on until like after lunchtime. And so my husband will turn on music, and that just like helps everybody stay in a positive space. So instrumental music is great, and consider working in a well like lit space with natural light. So like if you have a bunch of windows in your kitchen, and consider working in your kitchen, but not turning on the like overhead lights, working by the natural light. It really does make a huge difference. And even sometimes, I mean, we're moving into April where I know in a lot of places it's going to start to get really nice outside. Consider doing learning outside if they can focus and like actually get their work done. So those are just a few like key pieces. And yeah, I wanted to make sure that you guys had those key pieces as well. And offering them choice when you can is always really nice. It gives more buy-in to the kids, but make sure all of the choices that you give them are choices you're okay with. So like I mentioned, asking them where they want to work versus do you want to do your schoolwork right now or not. I think that those things are really, really beneficial. In terms of non-computer suggestions for them to do either during learning time, which I find all of these suggestions still very helpful, and purposeful learning activities, even though you might not necessarily think of them as purposeful learning activities. So doing a puzzle is great. The amount of skills that it takes to put a puzzle together is pretty in depth, especially the older they get and the more pieces involved in the puzzle. The type of problem solving skills that come from that are great. Legos are great. Play-Doh, very creative things. Letting them draw and be creative in terms of like paper pencil, or if you want to get out paints, those things are also really great. If you have really young kids, and we're talking probably ages 3 through 6 or 7, if you have a lot of shaving cream around, you can do shaving cream either on a cookie sheet or even right on the table because it cleans up pretty easily, and having them practice numbers, letters, all kinds of things in the shaving cream itself. They really love that kind of stuff. And then like sidewalk chalk outside is always really great, either just like free drawing all over the place or even like practicing their writing skills. Those things can be really, really fun for kids to do. Board games, card games are also really great. Again, working on those social emotional skills of working together. Those are my top big ones that most people have sitting around to some capacity, for sure.
I love that. And I actually had this idea in my head when you first started of like vacuuming. Like if you have carpet, you could vacuum shapes.
You totally could. Like when we talk about learning is happening all the time, like holy cow, the things that you could do. Like of course, like measurements and conversions when you're talking about cooking things, totally awesome things to do, and vary it up from day to day. So just because you did a cooking activity today as part of their like math and even reading skills, depending on how old your kids are, the next day you don't necessarily have to do another cooking thing. There are tons of apps and things online right now that are amazing and can do amazing things for your kids. And so I have a couple of things that I would suggest top of mind for you because they're free. They're always free. Well, 3 of them are free all the time. The other 2 are not necessarily, but are great resources and tools for them to use. But there's also other things going on online, like a lot of the museums and zoos and stuff are having like virtual tours, or like they have their like little animal cams, and so you can watch the animals. And so doing stuff like that with your kids is also really fun, and they will be really engaged with that versus just having them sit down and do a worksheet every single day. Um, so my top, I have five apps for you that I find are super helpful and pretty self-explanatory for the kids, which is also very helpful. So Khan Academy for math would be my top math application, because you can do it for kids starting, I think, in like first or second grade, all the way up through high school, which I know is huge because there's not a lot of the apps that are great for high school and college age kids. Khan Academy really is, and it has videos that will teach you the different skills that you need to learn. So you don't have to like go Google things or look at your child and be like, I have no idea how to do that math. They have videos. It's awesome. And then for reading, Scholastic just created a whole new section of their website called Scholastic Learn at Home. And they have like audiobooks that kids can listen and read, starting all the way in kinder and working up past 6th grade. So check those out. Scholastic Story Starters is great for writing and like creative writing for your kids. It gives them a way to start their story, and then they just kind of take it from there. Brain Pop is fantastic.
Love Brain Pop.
Oh my gosh. Such great informational, very short videos, but on just about every topic that you could possibly think of. And there's activities and things that go along with it. So like, quite honestly, you could spend an entire hour and hit all of your core subjects with one Brain Pop video. It's pretty cool. And then MobyMax is great for all subject areas as well. It's to help kids fill some of those like educational gaps. So if you have a kid who struggles in school and now they're not going to be in school for however long, MobyMax might be a really great thing for them to look into, because it really is meant to be kind of that filler stuff. Like, here's a topic, we're going to give you some questions about it, then we're going to test you on it and move you on to the next subject. So it moves pretty quick, and it's great for filling those educational gaps.
Love that. Thank you so much, Ellyse. That was so
welcome.
thorough. I loved the idea of breaking down each day, going, okay, what do I need to get done? So you know exactly where you're focusing on every day. And keeping in mind, everybody, you have to figure out what works for you, and that may take some time. So don't get discouraged if you try something one day and it doesn't work at all. As she said at the beginning, just reevaluate and reflect each day and take the bits and pieces that you liked and fit them back together. I have been a work-at-home mom now for, 6 months, maybe, something like that. And I'm still figuring things out. Like, I just came to the conclusion that, you know what? I can try to make myself work in the morning, but I do so much better if I spend my morning doing my household stuff and learning with my child, and in the afternoon and later evening doing all of my work, because I'm more creative then. So that may be something for you too, or it may be that way for your child. So play with it. Just think of it as discovering more about yourself and your child, and learn to enjoy the process. Don't get so bogged down if something doesn't work out.
For sure. I mean, give yourself lots and lots of grace. I cannot imagine being thrown into something that I had no idea was coming. Because if we're all being honest, like a month ago, this was not top of mind for anybody. And so feel free to send me a message. I am happy to help you work through things, give you suggestions for specific problems. Whatever I can do to help make this easier on you, I'm here for it. Um, yeah. And just, I mean, like I said, have fun. I think if we all kind of stepped into that space, and instead of having this like anxiety that it was going to be really hard, and instead offered up the idea that maybe this could be really fun, our kids would be more willing to learn with us as well. Because it wouldn't feel so much as a chore. It would feel more like spending time with my parents in a way that I've never spent time with them before.
Yeah, thinking of it kind of like an adventure. And you know what? It's okay if you just have to keep saying that to yourself and your kids and kind of faking it until you believe it. It really is an adventure. And adventures aren't always easy and fun. There are hard parts to adventures. So it's okay. But just reminding yourself that we are doing something new and it's going to challenge us and it's going to make us grow. And while it might be hard right now, in the end, we are going to find some amazing products from this time together. So thank you, Ellyse. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or that we missed?
I think that is everything. I'm going to put everything that I mentioned into a nice little PDF and post it in the group a little bit later so that you guys have it as a reference in case you didn't take notes or you don't want to go back and watch the whole thing again. That way you have the like physical copy that goes with it, which I find to be super helpful.
Perfect. I was going to say pop some links in the comments, but a
For
PDF is
sure.
even better.
For sure.
And can you let people know if they are really kind of enjoying your space right now and being with you, how can people continue to be in your space and learn from you?
That is a great question. So I have a Facebook community. It's called Educational Support for Homeschooling Parents that you can join. And it is like the intention was for parents who are currently homeschooling or plan to homeschool in the near future. But I am happy to provide you support as you work through this experimental homeschooling going on. So please pop in there. I will drop that link definitely in the comments so that you can come and join us. There are a couple other trainings in there. I did one on like learning styles of your kids, which some of you might find really helpful right now.
That would actually be amazing if you guys, most, even for teachers, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint the learning style of a particular child,
For sure.
especially because they can overlap.
Mhm.
So as a parent who's not used to looking for these learning cues, that might be an amazing training for everyone to go watch.
For sure. For sure. And like I said, feel free to shoot me a message. I am here for you. I want you guys to not feel like you have to do this all by yourselves because you definitely don't.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ellyse. I know everybody got so much from this, and they're probably feeling a little bit more relieved now
Good.
that they can figure out their own schedule and not have to go to that one that you were talking. Oh, that was awful. I looked at that and I was like, that's not homeschooling, dude.
It's like, oh, that's a nice ideal. That's great.
You're going to
When are
drive
you
yourself
supposed to get
crazy.
anything else done?
But thank you. And don't
Yeah,
forget to you guys, tomorrow we start again at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are talking with Sue Patterson of Unschooling Mom to Mom. And it's kind of taking some of these things that Ellyse has been talking about and really bringing home that learning can happen anywhere. So stay tuned for that. And then tomorrow at 4, we have Denise, and she's going to be talking about how practicing speech skills, like with younger kids, can help with literacy. So stay tuned. We've got a whole week planned for you. I will be also doing a group coaching at some point this week. And I just let me know if there's something that's not on the schedule that you really want to see, because this really is for you. And we want to really make sure we hit home all of your struggles and figuring them out for you or with you. So until next time, bye guys.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you subscribe and leave a rating and review, especially in iTunes. That would really help. And remember, we have a Facebook group for moms of littles at facebook.com/groups/thisindulgentlife, where you, for right now, can get that free 5-day calmer, more joyful you challenge, as well as all of the lives that I do weekly, as well as all of the tips and tricks that I give and post weekly, and the fun that we have. So come and join us. I really want it to be a place of encouragement, of learning, and honestly, a place to kind of de-stress. So I cannot wait to see you there. And remember, you can find all of the show notes at thisindulgentlife.com/27. Until next week, I hope you have an inspired week, and remember to take some time for yourself.